revupslu.com. Call the studio at 572-9710 or WhatsApp 287-0971. Or Rev Up office numbers are 572-0383 and 572-0215. Rev Up St. Lucia, the alpha of radio.
Join the United Workers' Party this and every Thursday on Rev Up St. Lucia 97.1 FM for an educational and informative program, Meet the Opposition. Participate in exciting discussions from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Be in the know every Thursday on Rev Up St. Lucia 97.1 from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
And without further ado, let's say good morning and welcome once again to the host of Meet the Opposition, Ms. Nancy Charles. Charles, good morning.
Good morning, Andre. Good morning to our listeners. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Meet the Opposition. I'm sure you missed me last week.
Yes, that's for sure.
It was a holiday, although I'm not Catholic, but I think we recognize that a lot of Catholic hold, especially Corpus Christi. I think it's a very dear holiday.
By the way, do you understand
celebration?
I don't know. I tried explaining.
I listened to Father Albert from Babono, and he was explaining the importance of it to Catholics in particular. Almost, I think it's sort of kind of like a reaffirmation of their faith, etc., and so forth. I don't understand it, but I respect it. I think every religion needs, because I mean, Catholics have that, Pentecostals have something else, Hindus have something, Muslims have something. So all the different religions have those particular days or festivals that they hold sacred to them as part of their faith. And I think as a society, if we want them to respect ours, then we need to also respect theirs. And that is one of the perspectives that I've taken. So we had a holiday, but we're back here today. Let me say thank you so much. I got a few calls from especially persons in the diaspora who was like, we don't have Meet the Opposition today because they're out there. They don't have that holiday that we have here in St. Lucia. And I had to remind a few of them it was a holiday. So thank you so much for your calls, your concerns. And it shows that we have a very, very good following, Andre.
That's correct.
That people are looking forward to Thursdays for Meet the Opposition to hear what is going on in this country, what is happening, and to get the facts of the matters affecting or impacting St. Lucia. So thank you so much and welcome to another program. We do have a guest today, but he's going to be in a little later. So I have the leader of the opposition, Honorable Alan Chastney, who's going to be coming in a little later. But before he comes in, I want to start off the program by our normal words of inspiration, Andre. And what inspired me and what I want to maybe leave with our viewers very briefly this morning was yesterday somebody sent me a little video on Facebook of some preschoolers at like nursery, children at nursery school, maybe about 3-4 years old, and they were worshiping and singing before their class. They had this little song and they were singing the goodness of God. And you could see the little children, some of them were singing, some of them closed their eyes and they have their hands in the air and everything. And of course you would know, Andre, that this is because they are replicating the behavior they see from adults. Because these little children will not just sing that song on their own and put their hands in the air and close their eyes and do their little dancing if they didn't. Because that's how they learn. They learn from adults. And it was so heartwarming for me that I remembered training and teaching my children, growing up, going to church, worshiping and praying. And I wanted to share with you this morning the importance of worshiping as an adult, to show or to set the example or to set the tone for your children, and no matter what age they are. Because as they grow up, when they're smaller, Andre, maybe at 3 and 4, they follow you, they go to church with you, they do everything you tell them at 7 and at 10. But by the time they get to 12 and 13 and 14, they now have their own mindset. They are now exposed to a lot of variables out there, friends and at schools, etc. And they now have to make up their own minds as to whether they want to follow what it is that the parents have taught them in terms of spirituality and everything else as well. But what I want to encourage you is, when I saw these little children, I said to myself, I remember the scripture that said to train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. So as they transition into life and they go through various stages in their life, they may move away and they may segue from it. But at some point in time in their life, they will come back to it. And I am reminded of myself when I was growing up, Andrew. My grandmother was not, I can't even remember how many times my grandmother went to church. But she made sure every Sunday I went to church from a little girl growing up. And she made me pray every night. Even if when she was drunk, Andre, she would lie down on the bed, but she would always say to me, "Oh, halfway there, I'm Vinny Pwede," and I have to come in the room. I had to go in the room to kneel at the bedside where she was so that I could pray, so she could hear me praying to make sure that I prayed. You know, so these were some of the examples that were set, and I'm saying that adults, my encouragement to you this morning, it's important for you to maintain some form of worship in your life as you continue to grow, so that your children can see that as they grow and as they transition from little, they will probably adopt it. As they blossom and get older, they may maybe move away from it. But as they go back to another stage of life, they will come back to it. And so that is my encouragement to you this morning. Do not give up and don't feel despondent if you see that your children are not necessarily walking the path that you want. They'll get there. Just continue to set the example.
I think
Right?
I think probably the most hurtful is when the parents lose their children to drugs and so on.
It is.
And they're out there on the road.
It's very difficult.
It must
I'm
be rough.
telling you, I have not gone through it, but I can only imagine, you know, how challenging it is that you feel like you want to take them and tie them up and put them someplace where they can't go out and harm themselves. But you have to learn sometimes as a parent to let go and allow them to be, and make sure that you are always there for them. So you let them know that anytime you need to come back, anytime you need something, I am always there, because that's the least you can do, because they have a mind of their own, Andre, unfortunately. Whether they are of sound mind or not, they still have a mind of their own, and you can't force it. But I know it's hurtful, and I know it's very, 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 very painful, because nobody wants bad for their kids, Andre.
Exactly.
Nobody wants bad for their children. All right?
Yes.
But that is what life is about. Continue to keep the faith, and we'll see where it goes and how it goes.
Indeed.
So, Andre, since we last met, a lot has happened. Boy, St. Lucia, I can tell you, for me, it's one drama after another. Sometimes when we prepare, because we have a team that we prepare for Meet the Opposition and all our other programs and so forth. And when we prepare for Meet the Opposition, I'm thinking, oh my God, which one of them will we choose today? Which one of them? Because there's so many things happening in this country. I mean, I know I'm not exaggerating, because sometimes when people call me and people tell me things, I'm like, okay, Nancy, you're on the right path. You're not really exaggerating, because that is the reality of what's happening in St. Lucia. And I say that because on my way up this morning, Andre, I got a call from a principal of a school, of a primary school. And St. Lucia, I don't know if you remember a few months ago when I brought to your attention that the school feeding program was in a mess. We had the new term beginning after the Easter, even from September last year as well. But it says, like, as the principal said to me, it's a continuous thing now that has started. Every school term, you don't get the supplies so that you can start the school feeding program on time. Sometimes a month into the school term, you get something, sometimes a month and a half. But when she called me and she says to me, I am only calling you because I am beyond frustration. Can you imagine that school is going to close on the 4th of July? And we only got our supplies, our full supply, so that we can begin the school feeding program in full on the 4th of June. 1 month, Andre, before school closes, that is when some schools are receiving supplies for the school feeding program. Now, I know it was bad because I brought it to your attention, St. Lucia, I think in the month of April, sometime early May, I was getting calls from staff from some of the schools, from principals of some of the schools, and I remember talking about it on the program. Because to the extent that some of the school principals said that they had rice, but they didn't have no chicken. And when they have chicken, they don't have no rice. And there was a time, I think the minister also responded to one of the claims when I made it, because I said there was a batch of meat that was procured, and when they brought it, it was bad. It was, I don't know, spoiled, whatever it was. They couldn't use it, and it took them another 2 weeks to get, and the second batch, I don't know what was the issue, so it took them a long time to procure. And all that time, Andrew, I keep asking myself, well, what are those children eating when they go to school?
I was just about asking.
What is it that you do for them? And some of the cook staff told me sometimes they would buy rice and sometimes lentils, and they put a little tuna fish in it because they have no chicken. Sometimes they do porridge. I mean, it's just very sad, St. Lucia. And I'm saying to you, this is not me, because that was not my intention to speak about that this morning. In my mind, I thought that since the minister had come out and clarified the issue, that everything was okay, moving on stream. To get that call this morning was very distressing. And when you add that to what is happening in terms of our health care, and what the principal was saying to me, where is the priority of the government, Andre? When you say you put people first and you are thinking about people and your priority is people, the children at those schools, they should be your priority. The people accessing medical care, they should be your priority. Driving up, I heard on Government Notebook, one of the news item, I think it was, where the director of OKEU, the person in charge of the A&E, they held a press conference telling St. Lucians that if they can, go elsewhere, because they are inundated with persons coming in at OKEU. They cannot see them. There's a long wait. People are lying on the floor. You saw the videos, Andre? People are lying on the floor. And I got testimony from some nurses who said to me, Nancy, it is true. We have to take money from our pocket sometimes to buy basic supplies, to buy toilet paper, to buy things to rub and to clean and stuff like that. You understand? And one doctor, medical student, went as far as saying to me in the South as well that there's something, I don't know if it's a blood thing or blood clotting agent that they use when you have surgery to ensure that you don't bleed out, etc. They don't even have that, and so sometimes they have to prioritize which surgeries they will undertake because they don't have the proper supplies. So I'm saying to the government of St. Lucia, I'm saying to Mr. Moses Jabatis, I'm saying to Sean Edward, you guys are senior to some of the other people who have been there. You need to put your foot down and say to the Prime Minister that we need to give priority to education and healthcare in this country, Andre. I mean, I'm from Viewfort. I didn't see them myself, but when I saw the videos of the goats inside St. Jude's Hospital, I said to myself, well, Messi, you're really doing things. That's Photoshop. That can't be real. That can't be true. You understand? Because in my mind, I don't want, and contrary to what the Prime Minister says that we want bad, I don't want bad for my country. I go to St. Jude's when I am sick. My son goes to St. Jude's when he is not well. So you think I want bad for St. Lucia? I would not bad. So when I saw the videos, Andrea, I was like, Mama, why y'all doing that, Messi? Give the fellas a breaker. Then only to find out, yes, it's true. And then later on, the cows, they told me there were even dogs. All kinds of animals are in our hospital where persons are supposed to get health care. And when you go there, when you're sick, Andre, this is sickening what is happening in this country. St. Lucia, I'm telling you, it is beyond frustrating right now for people. So to know that our children are going to school, we're giving them rice and peas, sometimes rice with no meat, rice and tuna fish. Sometimes they just go without food because there's nothing to cook. Sometimes this particular principal told me that a parent has been giving supplies over the last couple of weeks, because I said to her, well, what have you been giving them over the last few weeks since you're not getting your supplies from the ministry? She said, we've had a few parents who come in, they donate, they send rice, sometimes they send provisions, they send certain things. That is the state And it's not a bad thing to say that we need to contribute, Andre. But if you're saying to me that you, and the government came out with a big bram to say, oh, we're going to pay for the fees for the children and we're going to pay for CXC. But yet still here you are reducing on what is important. You are reducing on the food. You have reduced on the school transportation subsidy. You doing one thing at the expense of another. And I'm hearing this week, that's what these things get me angry, Andre. When I hear this week that there's a new appointment in the office of the Prime Minister, again to the communications team, that Tricia Lionel has now been appointed as the communications director in the office of the Prime Minister. So you have Tricia Lionel, communications director, Monday Louise, who's his personal assistant or whatever. She used to be the attaché. You have this Joseph lady, who's the press secretary. You have Riani Isidore, who's a communications officer, and so many other persons all over the place. You understand? You all have money to hire these people, to bring them in, because you would recognize these were the people who were doing the work for them in the media. They put so much pressure on the then United Workers' Party government. So they have to reward them. They have to bring them in. They have money to bring them in. But you don't have money for a school feeding program to ensure that our children can get a little bit of food to eat during the school hours. Crazy, Andre.
So just for clarification, the school feeding program, it is government run. I thought it was maybe private sector.
No, it is government run. The government provides for them on a monthly basis. I think the government send them the supplies, right? So they use it to cook, and they charge the children $1. And some of the principals will tell you there's still a lot of children who come to them and say, Miss, I don't have money. Miss, my mommy didn't give me money. And they still feed them. They still have to give them food. You understand? Because they're hungry. But they charge the children $1. And what she says to me, out of that $1, every month they have to send 50 cents of every $1 goes back to the ministry, and they allow them to keep 50 cents, the other 50 cents, so they can buy little things and supplement whatever it is that they're giving them. I mean, 50 cents on $1 is not going to buy, and how many children? It's not going to buy anything for them. You understand? So you have to if you're doing the thing, Andre, prioritize it and do it properly. Feed our children, but don't go out there and do grandstanding, pat yourself on the back, have big ceremony, you're doing this, that, and the other, and 2 days later, you know nothing. It's really, really, really not good. And then, Andre, we spoke about the GPH deal. I know we spoke about it for a long time. And lo and behold, the government has not responded to us. I don't know if you would normally watch the press conferences that the government has every Monday, that the Prime Minister has. It's important for you to watch it, Andre. Yes, you know, because the questions were being asked of the Prime Minister, because they've now formally handed the port over to GPH. Are you aware of that?
No.
Yes, the port they had this little private ceremony a week or two ago where they said the port was formally handed over to GPH. So as we speak, GPH is now running or managing the aspect of the port that they say that they are running, collecting our money on our behalf. But I think what was interesting was when the Prime Minister was asked about the revenue sharing, because St. Lucia's, you would appreciate that every visitor who comes in via the cruise industry, currently they pay $6.50 as a head tax as they disembark. And that goes, or that normally would have gone to SLASPA. SLASPA would have collected that money. The agreement is that they will be increasing it, they'll be doubling it. It will be increased to $12. And so we have the document that shows that the proposal is from the $12 that the government of St. Lucia will be getting $1 initially for the first 4 years, I think, and then in the years following they'll be getting $1.50 for the next 30 years. All right? So GPH out of the $12 will be getting the $11, and the government of St. Lucia will be getting $1. And you know, it's Andre, you know what let me tell you, every time the Prime Minister gets an opportunity, they're lying. These people lying. They're not speaking the truth, etc., etc. And you cannot speak the truth. You have information about DSH. They ask you about something, you reach all the way on per Joe a letter. You know about all kinds of agreements that were done before and made all kind of allegations. You said that you read the deal when at the ceremony. He was very specific. You know that Powell JT thing they just call Andre. Powell JT. Oh, I can say to you, I read this document. Over and so he was throwing remarks because Bradley had said that he had not really read the full agreement, and so he was jeting Powell. I read it. I know everything in there. So the reporter asked him, well, what is the revenue sharing? And he went round and round and round. Andre, you should watch it. That's so funny. That's like a clown. Went round. He said everything else. And the reporter said, well, what is it? Because the United Workers' Party had a press conference and they indicated that the revenue sharing is $1. And he said, oh, I'll get you that information. So she said, but you said you read the agreement. You know everything in the agreement and you don't know what is the revenue sharing? You think the Prime Minister don't know the revenue sharing, Andre? I mean, St. Lucia, sit down and think. You think the Prime Minister does not know the revenue sharing is $1 for the government of St. Lucia and $11 for GPH, but he will not tell you that, oh, I'll get you that information. I'll get you the contract. I'll get you this. I'll get you that and everything like that. But at the end of the day, that is what we wanted. This is the Prime Minister we voted for, and that is what we wanted. And then, Andre, we talked about the halls of injustice. Because we can never call that place St. Lucia, and St. Lucians, if you're listening to me, we can never call that place the halls of justice. It is called the halls of injustice. Because every day, Andre, we are finding out more and more information about that project called the halls of injustice, and every day it becomes an injustice to the people of St. Lucia. So the last time I spoke to you, I told you about the agreement. I told you about the financing, and this information, we had gotten that from an article from the Trinidadian Guardian, because the St. Lucia public was never aware of any of this thing. It was a private ceremony again. The media was not invited. They did their own thing and sent out what they want you to know and what they want you to hear. And we have to have a show about that, Andre. We need to have a show, an entire show dedicated to the media, the role of the media, and the treatment of the media by various governments. Because you see, Philip JP and Labour Party try to make it seem as if Alan Chasney and them did not treat the media right. But when you look at the facts and the statistics, you will see. We'll have a show about that. But I told you that there was an agreement between a company called Themis that is fully owned by NH, and one of the directors is my good friend who called the show, embarrassed himself to try and make it seem that he was defending and what I was saying is not true, is John Peters. And I also told you that the agreement was not between NH and the government of St. Lucia, but it was between Themis, which is the company that John Peters is the director of, and the government. And John Peters, as a director of the company, decided to give the contract to construct the halls of injustice to NH, which is a Trinidadian company. So he didn't give it to any St. Lucian. He didn't give it to Reno. He didn't give it to was the young man down in Cul-de-Sac. He didn't give it to Fresh Start. He didn't put it out to tender to say, okay, I have this contract with the government of St. Lucia to build the halls of injustice. Let me have companies bid. No, he gave it to NH, a Trinidadian company, and he wants to call this show to try and defend that decision. Mr. Peters, you can't pass with that. All right? So we know now that Mr. John Peters is a co-owner or business partner of NH. They are all Trinidadians together. That I didn't know, Andre, but now I know. And then I told you that according to an article in the Trinidadian Guardian, that the cost of the project would be $164 million. All right? $164 million. That is what it was. $143 million before financing. And the gentleman himself, Mr. Elias Emil, said that it will be $164 million.
Is that EC?
All right?
EC?
That's EC dollars we're quoting, all right? Today, Andre, I have to say to you, St. Lucia, surprise, surprise, but it's not a surprise, but surprise, surprise, another article surfaced over the weekend in the same Trinidadian Guardian. All right? So, St. Lucia, We're not getting information on DBS. We're not getting it on Hot 7, not on St. Lucia Times, none of the St. Lucian papers. We're not getting those type of information. So we have to go elsewhere. But it surfaced in the Trinidadian Guardian on the weekend, and you can go and read it for yourself. Like I've said to you, when I come here, I don't say things off my head. I read, I research, I look, I try to understand. The title of the article is Chasney NH St. Lucia project cost outrageous. Okay? It is in the Trinidadian Guardian. You can read it yourself.
I saw it.
You saw it? Okay. So the article more or less was speaking about the statement made by the leader of the opposition, Honorable Alan Chasney, read the cost of the project. And the article was trying to justify, I suppose, in summary, it was trying to justify the cost of the project. So it reminded the viewer that the base cost of the project, or what we call the construction cost, is 143 million, and the total investment cost is 164.7 million. The article tried to justify by stating how many courtrooms, and there were going to be desks and conference room and filing cabinets. So more or less they were saying that the cost would have been inclusive of furnishing. So after you build it, Andre, this is the cost of construction, then there's also a cost to furnishing. So that's where the thing gets interesting. Fully furnished. Tut bagay. You can make a tut bagay there. It's a sayodi. Now remember, at the base price, we said that the construction cost would be approximately $1,100 per square foot, which is still double because normal construction cost is about $500 per square foot. And it's still 1,100. So it's still higher. But the same article, Andre, I read the entire article, and when I got towards the end of the article, I laughed. I wanted to cry, but I just laughed. Because since you said you saw the article, in conclusion, after the article went over all the costs and tried to justify how many courtrooms, how many cameras, how many filing cabinets, conference room, etc., to say the cost, remember all along we were saying $164 million. That's what I just said, right? $164.7 million, which is what Mr. Elias Emil quoted. I want you to listen to me carefully, St. Lucia. However, the article indicated that a source leaked the Bolt agreement to them, and here are the facts or what they got from the Bolt agreement. Now, St. Lucie, c'est pas moi qui dis. Article la di the Trinidadian Guardian, c'est yo ki mache, yo di un moun ba yo agreement between gouvernement St. Lucie et puis NH pour halls of injustice. This is what they have quoted in the article, so I want to be very clear. So if you're going to sue, you also sue me and you also sue Andre. We are saying this is what was quoted in the article. We need the government of St. Lucia to come out and clarify. And this is what the gentleman quoted in the article. He said, the government will pay quarterly payments of $4.7 million, that is the rent, or $19.126 million a year. So the rent will be $19 million a year for the next 12 years. That is what he said was in the Bolt agreement. So for the next 12 years, the government of St. Lucia will pay Tansai, St. Lucie. You saw it, right, Andre? $292,509,312 for the total cost of the halls of injustice. This is what the gentleman said that he got or was leaked to him in the Bolt agreement. So therefore, my people of St. Lucia, the monthly rental from this building, fully furnished, that they say, will be $16.07 per square feet for rent. We have never in the history of this country, Andre, paid more than at least $8 or even $10 rent. That would have been the highest we have paid. Fully furnished. Fully furnished. But we are going to pay NH and Mr. John Peters and the company $16.07 per square foot. And all along they keep quoting $164 million. That's the cost of the construction. But based on the Bolt agreement, St. Lucia, we will be paying close to $300 million for the halls of injustice. You think that is justified? I want Mr. Peters to call today and to clarify and to say the Trinidadian Guardian has lied. The information that they have posted in that article is wrong and untrue, and that St. Lucia will not be forking out $300 million to pay for the halls of injustice. All right? I want him to call and to say that. So we'll be paying $143 million for the cost of construction, Andre. You add $21.7 million. I am assuming that would be the investment cost, because that's how it came up to $164 million. Yeah? 21.7.
Can you explain what you mean by the investment cost?
Well, I suppose investment cost means financing. It's if I am going to build the structure for you and find the money to build it, obviously when I go and take a loan, or people invest in it, I have to give them a return on that investment. So that's what you call interest and added benefits, etc. So the interest or the added benefits, if you want to call it that, will cost the $21.7 million. So the cost of constructing the building would be $143 million. But the interest to get that money to build it, when I go to the bank or investors or Emil himself, remember he said he's also an investor. So the cost of that will be $21.7 million. And so that's why we get the $164 million. But to get to the 292, Andre, it means that the cost of the furnishing, to furnish the halls of injustice, would be $127.8 million. Setli si, so pour gen desk, pour gen filing cabinet, pour me d'autres CCTV camera, pour gen, have si yo ka gen computer too, or whatever, $127 million to furnish the place, Andre? And we have to pay $292 million? And you telling me that they don't have a bubble in there somewhere? St. Lucia, let me tell you something. Jukba used to say, c'est pas kakakal baski en tête moi. C'est pas kakakal baski en tête moi. Nous à l'école and we have a brain and we can think for ourselves. Something is amiss with this construction. The same way something is amiss with the GPH deal, and we cannot understand why the government would allow GPH to make over $1 billion for the next 30 years on our heads in that port deal. The same way, why is it that we're giving NH $300 million for the halls of injustice? Andre, somebody is getting something somewhere. That can't be right. That cannot be right. And this is corruption at the highest level, St. Lucia. Highway robbery. Highway robbery. And let me tell you something. You remember, Andre, up to a day like today, maybe my good lady friend who called the last time, asking about how much we lease the land for DSH for $1, and we give DSH all that land. Do you know that there is a lease agreement for the land for them to build these halls of injustice, Andre? How much do you think is the lease? They lease it to them. $1. Okay? The lease agreement between the government of St. Lucia and the company Themis that John Peters owns, because they had to lease the land to them so they can have the land can belong to them so that they can construct and build and then rent back, right? They lease it to them at how much, St. Lucia? $1. Mem dollar. $1. $1. Okay? This is what is going on in our country. And then we come to the hot topic of the day, which the political leader, when he comes in, is going to expound a little bit on. Another bubble again is CIP. Okay? Another bubble is CIP. But, Andre, like I said to you, I don't know which one to pick. Because every day in this country, it's another story. So, when we last spoke about CIP, the Prime Minister was insisting that We want bad. The opposition want bad for the country. They never want to see the glass half full. They want to see the glass half empty. And we were bringing to the attention of the people of St. Lucia the risk that this government was taking with our passports. And we didn't come out and we didn't say do anything, We were more or less stating the facts, Andre, from the documents that we had received. We were stating the facts from what is it that we had gotten. And what did we know at the time, St. Lucia? We knew at the time there was a gentleman who said that he had evidence, Andre. It was in the interview in the news everywhere that he was going to file a lawsuit in the courts in the U.S. against the government and some players in St. Kitts. These same players who were in St. Kitts, the company called Galaxy, is now operating in St. Lucia, and the CEO, the gentleman who was the CEO of the St. Kitts CIP program, Mr. Les Khan, he's also now the CEO of Galaxy in St. Lucia. And he made a call specific to the Prime Minister and to Mr. Ernest Hille to say, listen, I have evidence that may implicate the CIP program in St. Lucia. I am saying to you, I can make that information available to you so you can come and see and hear what is it that we have to share so that St. Lucia can make a decision in moving forward. What did the Prime Minister do, Andre? He went to Parliament and he called the man a fraud. Okay? That's what he said. He said the man is a fraud, a fraudster, and he doesn't have to listen to anything these people have to say. He insisted that he was not going to sign the MOA despite what was happening, despite the fact that Dominica had the Schengen visa revoked. He insisted, we have contractual agreement and these people make their money already and it's our turn for us to make money, etc., etc. So we're not going to sign. And he went to the EU and he met with the commissioners and refused to tell us what the conversation was about. Just beating around the bush, okay? So the court case was eventually filed. All right? We didn't know what was in there, but the court case was filed. And a 132-page document is in circulation all over the place about the court matter. The gentleman in his court matter, I've read as much as I can. 132 pages is a lot of things. There's a lot of things in there, I can tell you. But relating to St. Lucia, he has said that he has audio recordings of Mr. McLeod Emmanuel. Now, do we know who's Mr. McLeod Emmanuel? Because my information is that, and I saw some pictures of him on social media some time back, that he has twins. I think it's twin girls. And my information is that Philip J. Pierre is the godfather to those twins. So there is a relationship there. They're friends. For the Prime Minister to be the godfather of his children, so they're friends, that's family. And so, St. Lucia, now you understand why the daughter of the Prime Minister got a job at the CIP office where Mr. McLeod Emmanuel is the CEO and Philip J. Pierre is the godfather to his children. So you see how intricate this is? Yeah, it's all connection. Friends, family, comrades. Tuta Sam. That was the film for independence, right? Tuta Sam, Duva Sam, Tutmuna Sam. Yeah, that was the film. So they knew very well what they were saying when they speak about the film. So NSR Media says that they have recordings of Mr. McLeod Emmanuel saying that Hilaire is managing the relationship with Galaxy and allowing Galaxy to conduct the illegal scheme in St. Lucia. That's what he claims in the lawsuit. I'm reading from the lawsuit, St. Lucia. Now, what is the illegal scheme that he's claiming? On page 74 of the lawsuit, he claims that Galaxy convinced Philip J. Pierre and Ernest Hille to allow Galaxy to sell the shares as low as $65,000 US, even though the legal price is $200,000 for the real estate. I want to ask Mr. Pierre and Mr. Hille This is what the gentleman claims on page 74 of his lawsuit. Is this or is this not true? These are the things we want the government to come out. Now, do you realize that Ernest Hille is in hiding, St. Lucia? Have you heard from Ernest Hille about this thing since this thing started? Somebody who had a response to everything. Il ka répond tout bay, il connaît tout bay. C'est juste ça, moi-même savent quoi. Ma si cette liste, si pas cette liste. No response. NSR also claims that he has audio recording. And I want you to note, because yesterday I did listen to the communications director of the Labour Party, Lisa, on another program, and she said, oh, the allegations are baseless. There's no evidence. There's no facts. There's no substance. Madam Lisa Jawahir, I can't really pronounce her surname properly, but this is what the gentleman say in his lawsuit. He has audio recordings. That's not evidence. He didn't just come out and say he has. He said he has audio recordings, Lisa. That is evidence. And that is why he had asked Hille and Pip to come up to DC to see and to listen to the evidence he has before he filed the suit. Because he said he has audio recordings of McLeod saying this and McLeod saying that, etc. That's what he says. He has the audio recordings. And now everywhere is too hot for them. But it's too late now, Andrew, because the damage has already been done. All right? So the Prime Minister comes out and says that he intends to sign the MOU. And everybody, because I kept listening to some of the stories, and people kept saying, oh, St. Lucia has signed the MOA. St. Lucia has not signed the MOA, Andre. The Prime Minister never said that St. Lucia has signed the MOA. The Prime Minister said that the government of St. Lucia, after careful consideration with his counterparts, etc., has decided to sign. That's what he said. He never said that he has signed it. He said he has decided to sign. And that is the play on words sometimes we have to listen to, Andre. We have to be very, very mindful. And so because he feels that he says, oh, we're going to sign the MOE, he thinks that everything is fine. But everything is not fine, St. Lucia. The damage has already been done by Philip JPF, first of all, by not listening to MSR and engaging them to see what was happening, by not signing the MOA together with the other countries, by going to the EU and trying to build a case to say, I have contractual obligations and I cannot sign, and I need you to grandfather clause, and I need you to give me time, and some of these countries make how much money already, give St. Lucia some time to make some money too, and all that kind of a thing. The damage has already been done because the EU don't care about that. What they care about is who is entering their country and what threats to national security does that pose, not only to the country but to the financial industry as well. And it's the money that is important, Andre, because that's the biggest issue going on in the world right now. That issue of money laundering, illegal funds, etc. All these things that have been put in place by those countries is to safeguard them from that, Andre. They do not want illegal money to enter their banking system. And the leader of the opposition, when he gets there, is going to explain a little bit more about that. Because people say, well, when Pamela Psa, but no, it impacts you, Because now everybody has a debit card, Andre. Everybody has a credit card. Shein is the biggest thing now. Everybody shopping online with Shein, but you need a card. And if these things start to impact us, but these are the impacts of this thing, all right? So the Prime Minister just said, Andre, and we are asking questions of the Prime Minister. We have sent out a press release and we want to reiterate it, okay? You indicated that you had not signed or you were not going to sign because you had contractual obligations and these had legal implications for the country. That's what he said, Andre. His words were, we are asking, who did you have that contractual obligation with? Was it with Galaxy? Was it with somebody else? What was the legal obligation that you had? Because remember, we had reduced the price of the donation to 100,000. So did you have a legal obligation with somebody else to say, okay, I'm going to allow you to sell it for less than 100,000, and that is why you didn't want to bring it up to the 200,000? I don't know. But in any event, What we want the Prime Minister to tell us is, since you had those legal obligations, Andre, did you have an agreement or an arrangement with those people to say, listen, I don't have a choice. I have to sign the MOA. I have to bring the price up. And did they say to you, okay, fine, Mr. Prime Minister, we will let you go of your legal obligations? Is St. Lucia still legally obligated? What about the legal implications that you spoke about? Do those still exist? Did you renegotiate a deal? What is the deal you renegotiated? Because you couldn't sign, Andre. You could not sign because you said you had those legal obligations, the contractual obligations. So what has changed? I want the Prime Minister to know that when he speaks, we listen, very, very intently we listen. Because in one sentence he says one thing. I don't know if you saw the back and forth with the reporter. In one sentence he says to the reporter, you see, the opposition is so weak that they're letting you all do your jobs for you all. And when the reporter took him on and said, but Mr. Prime Minister, when we were doing our jobs when you were in opposition, were we doing your job for you? Were you paying us to do your job? And I said, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. He says one thing in one side of his mouth, and in the next breath, in the other side of his mouth, he said that's not what he says. But we're listening to you, sir. Okay? I just want you to know that we are listening to you. Now, I want to ask St. Lucia a question. This is a very, very important question. If you have a contractor, Andre, and I want you all to follow me. If you have a contractor who was supposed to build a hotel, from 2019 when he signed the agreement with the government of St. Lucia, it was the then UWP government, to 2024 to date, 5 years, and he ain't finished the hotel yet. He's not even close to finishing the hotel. According to the Prime Minister and Ernest Hille, he has collected all the money already to build the hotel. That's what they said, not me. The Prime Minister and Ernest Hille said that Galaxy has sold all the shares, so that part of the project is closed. They can no longer sell any shares for the project, so they've gotten all the money. Now the money is for another show, Andre. We'll do another separate show to find out about the money, because we want to know how much money did Galaxy collect? How many shares were sold? How much money did they collect in total? How much does the project cost? So if the project costs $500 million and Galaxy collected $1 billion, what happens to the other $500 million? Where does it go? Who does it belong to? Does it belong to Galaxy? Does it belong to the people of St. Lucia? We need to know these things, That's not important, Andre? Mm-hmm. That's very important. So we'll do that for another show. But 5 years, Galaxy ain't finished the hotel yet. Then you look at his track record. He entered into agreement. I want you to remember that, St. Lucia. This same Galaxy entered into an agreement with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis just prior to the last election to build a prison, costing, I think, $50 million or something like that. Okay? Now, Philip J. Pierre and Dr. Drew, they are friends. Remember, Dr. Drew is the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. They are friends. They are both Labour Party together. They're part of the organization. Sean Edwards was at the ceremony during one of the campaign. I think Sean was there. And even the ceremony or one of the conferences, he was there. He was the guest speaker. So they are friends. They're talking. All right? So you telling me that Dr. Drew did not tell Philip J. Pierre, boy, I want you to watch them fellas, because just before the last election, they signed a deal to build a prison. And they have already sold the shares for that prison, All right? Dr. Drew, when he was in opposition, was against that prison project. And he has not said anything about it. In fact, what he said was that he will conduct an investigation, Andre. It was in an article. And he said that if there are any passports he find that were sold illegally or below the price, he said that he will revoke those passports. Can the Prime Minister of St. Lucia make that same statement, Andre? Why won't Philip J. Pierre say that same thing as well? All right? But anyway, it is alleged that the prison cost is, I think, $50 or $500 million. But Galaxy sold passport and collected over $1.4 billion. And not one block has been laid in St. Kitts and Nevis. All right? Not one block has been laid in St. Kitts and Nevis. So are you telling me that he's supposed to build a hotel, He's not built the hotel. And let's say welcome to our political leader.
Great. Thanks.
All right. I'm just wrapping up so you can answer. I have some serious questions for you to answer. I don't know if you'll be able to answer them.
I can leave now.
But Galaxy has sold the shares for the prison in St. Kitts. Dr. Drew and Philip J. Pierre are buddy, so I can certainly tell you they've been talking about it. Philip J. Pierre know very well the reputation of Galaxy in St. Kitts. But you're telling me he has not finished the hotel, Andre, remember that? And you are giving him another contract to do an infrastructure project in St. Lucia here with no details, no information. And you're telling me they don't have a bubble in that, Andre? Andre, you have a house. The contractor is supposed to finish your house. He collected all the money already. You've paid him. You took the money from the bank. You paid him. Your house is not even halfway through. You have an extension to build on another house or another property. You'll give that same contractor a contract to go and build on that second property for you?
Nope.
No way. Nobody in their right mind would do that. You would wait until he's done and then say, okay, I'll give him that when he's done, or you'll find somebody else. So what is it about Galaxy that the Philip JP administration is so into? The allegations are there. You now have the media, MSR media, you have the court issue, you have what is happening in St. Kitts, you have all that information. And no matter what we say, Galaxy Nouvle, Galaxy Nuka Baili, Nuka by Galaxy, and they feel that they do not have to respond to anything in this country that we say. So, Mr. Political Leader, I want you to explain to me what is the love story with Philip J. Pierre, Ernest Hille, and Galaxy. In spite of all what we're hearing, we have this thing happening with the court, and then we have this infrastructure program. I am really hoping you can tell me about the infrastructure program, because I cannot find information anywhere. I think as leader of the opposition, former Prime Minister, maybe you are more Okuma with me. Tell me what is going on in this space.
So Nancy, good morning to everybody, and good morning to your listeners.
Morning.
The Philip Pierre administration has mastered the art of disguise and deflect. Remember, he used to always use that term, smoke and mirrors?
Right, I remember that.
Right? So this is another game of smoke and mirrors. They have tried to confuse people between CIP generally. So they try to bundle it so it's just one big thing, although it's not. And we know it's not. There's a donation program, there's the bond program, the different pathways to become citizens. You can make a $100,000 contribution, and the money goes into a CIP, and it goes into the economic fund in an account here in St. Lucia with 5 board directors from the government of St. Lucia.
So that comes directly to St. Lucia government?
That comes directly to the government of St. Lucia, right? The government collects its fees. Right, so in addition to the $100,000, the government also collects fees.
Okay.
That money goes into the CIP. CIP then transfers the money into the economic fund. The economic fund's chairperson is the director of finance.
Okay.
On the board of directors is the director of budget, the chief economist,
okay,
an appointee from the attorney general's office, and the representative from the private sector.
But let me ask you a question quickly. These were the appointees that you had put when you created the regulations for the economic fund.
Correct.
Are you aware that these things still exist? Because as far as I'm aware, when these people come, they just crash everything. Does that board still exist? Do you know?
The board still exists.
Okay.
But the purpose of the board has been taken away. Because the cabinet gave a policy direction to the board. That was only involvement of cabinet. And they told them that when the money comes in, they can use the monies for capital investment projects. So, for instance, when SLASPA wanted to buy the Bonanza land, as an example, they could have gone to the economic fund and made a request that they can borrow the money. Now, the purpose of borrowing the money is that the money is supposed to be repaid.
So it's almost like a revolving fund.
Right, and it comes as wealth to the state. So it's like having money on your side, right? There's an asset for the state, okay? They could only use the money for capital investment projects or for debt. So it means they could buy bonds,
okay,
right? Or they could agree to pay off government debt. That's what the money could be used for. And the board was given the mandate to make sure that those things were done.
Okay.
When the new government came in, they changed it to any project that the cabinet approved.
So they more or less were like, they became a rubber stamp. So the cabinet says we're building a road, they send it to the economic fund, and the board just has to say, okay, this is what the cabinet agrees, so this is what we're doing. So they no longer have a say in terms of how the funds are being used.
So if cabinet wanted the money to be used for the Bocage housing development, they could do that.
That's it.
If the government wanted to do the road, the Camaget Road, they could have done that. Whatever cabinet wants to use the money for, they could have used it.
Okay.
Okay?
So let's move along.
Wait a second. So the second one was the bonds. So the bonds acted exactly like another bond. So a person can buy bonds, $300,000 worth US worth of bonds. They had to hold the bond for 5 years, and the bond did not generate any interest. So it means at the end of the 5 years, the person only got back the $300,000 US dollars. That money went into the consolidated account.
Okay.
Because it was the consolidated account that had to pay back the money.
That money. Okay.
Okay. The next one was real estate. So the only real estate program. We had two projects approved: the Alpina, which was the hotel to be by the horse racing track, and the Galaxy.
Galaxy.
So Galaxy was selling what we call shares. So persons would buy $300,000 worth of shares, and there would be a transaction on that share transfer. And the purpose was, why would somebody pay $300,000 for a citizenship when they could have paid $100,000? So it was that you can pay the $300,000, but you're making it an investment
in the hotel. So you're a shareholder in the hotel.
A shareholder, and with the possibility of you earning your money
back. You get interest on that.
Correct.
Okay.
And so, to your point, you've said that the number of shares that Galaxy could sell has already expired. So it means that part of the project, when we brought Galaxy specifically to do the hotel, right? We had gone to St. Kitts and we saw the Ramada project. And there were some things that we identified as weaknesses in that contract, and we strengthened those things in the contract.
When we came to St. Lucia.
Right. So the first thing that we did was to recommend to them a proper management company.
Okay.
We said Ramada is not a well-known brand, and it's not a leisure brand. It's not a vacation brand. So we put them in touch with AMR, which is a very large U.S. company that owns hotels and a major marketing company, and they had their own negotiations. We were not involved. We just put the two parties together. They came to their own deal. But we were satisfied that once the hotel was open, that it would have the greatest amount of success in being. So let's take my good friend Range. You know, he has brought in some brands that are not as successful. So Intercontinental, I'm not so sure is going to be very successful in Dominica. But that's, neither here nor there. That was one of the things we did. And also we agreed that there had to be an escrow account. Now, we use these terms and a lot of people don't know what that means. So an escrow account is, if Nancy and I want to do a business, Andre, and I have to give her money, but I want to make sure that whatever Nancy agrees to do, that she's going to do. Nancy also wants to know before she starts doing any work that the money is there for her to get paid. So what we do is we come to you, my escrow agent. I give you the money. You hold the money. And there's a contract between the three of us that says Nancy and I have entered into an agreement to build a house. Okay? The house is going to cost $100,000. That when Nancy starts the process, she gets paid 10% of the money for mobilization. When the foundation is done, you pay her another percentage of the money. When the roof is done, you pay her another percentage of the money. When the walls and all the interior are done, until she gets paid the full $100,000. That's all written in the contract. So I give you the money, then when Nancy brings what's called a certificate of completion for each one of those things, you then release the money to her. That's what an escrow agent does. It acts as a middleman. The monies are there, okay? And to make sure both parties are comfortable, because there's going to be a time lapse between when the money goes in and when the money goes out.
But it also ensures that nobody can put their hand in the kitty, right? It ensures that the money is at least accountable for.
Right.
It's accounted for, that I cannot just go and withdraw money from that account because these are the terms and conditions that allows me to withdraw.
Correct. That's what. Now, it is up to me to make sure that Andre is doing his job.
That's right.
So Andre is supposed to give me a monthly account of how much money is in the account, Okay, and how much money
Money
you've
have-
drawn down.
have drawn down.
And then I can then physically go to see the site
To
and
make
see,
sure
right?
construction is at that
and that the
percentage.
certification
That's
is
right.
properly. I still have that responsibility. Okay? Your job is based on the certification. My job is to make sure that all those things are in check. And anytime I want to find out how much money is in the escrow account, I come to you. Anytime that she wants to find out how much money is in the escrow account, she can go and find out. Okay? So you don't just set it up and leave the job to Andre. Okay? I must make sure on a regular basis that this thing is being done properly. That's the system that was set up. So to your point, Nancy, the government have indicated that all of the shares have been sold, and so therefore we have not been told how many
much?
shares that was. Okay, we know how much shares that were supposed to be sold initially, but remember, the government came in and changed the price of a share from $300,000 to $200,000.
$200,000.
Now, I want to make it very clear so that we are all speaking on the same language here, because people tend to want to confuse things and make everything seem. When we hear that they were given 2,000 shares, we automatically in our minds think that it's 2,000 passports. It's not. A share is a file. Okay? And a file means that you can apply 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5
a
people, 6
family.
people, a family. So when we hear 11,000 shares is not 11,000 passports. 11,000 shares, if you take a family of 4, could be as many as 54,000 passports. You understand what I'm saying?
Because a file can have more than one person. A file can, let's say a file is 5 person.
Right.
Then you have to multiply that by the number of shares. Because each file
So the
has more than one person.
A file is a share,
Yeah.
right? And a share of the thing. It means that there's one primary owner, but because he's applying, you can pay a little extra money
For your family,
for
your wife and your 3 children.
Children under 18 or
Yeah.
children over 18. Okay? And in some cases, they allow them to even do grandchildren.
So you're saying that one share sometimes can amount to 5 passports, for example.
Correct.
Because a share is a file. And when they submit that file, it will be me, Nancy Charles, as the wife. But then in that file is also Alexander Charles, the husband. So that's 2 passports. And then my 4 children. So that's 6 passports. So if I apply for one share under my file, there can be a total of 6 passports in just one file.
Correct.
Okay. So we understand that, St. Lucia.
So
Okay.
in the hotel project, because there's an escrow account, okay, when a person buys a share, the file has to be sent to the escrow agent to say Nancy Charles has applied with her husband and her 3 children. Okay, so the amount of money that's due, what we call it a statutory amount, because the amount of money that's due for citizenship is a statutory price. Do you know what I mean by that?
No.
It is a regulated price. It's a legal price.
So the regulations say that you need to sell it for $100,000. So when the file comes across, the regulated price must be $100,000.
So when you receive the money, right, you have to make sure that the X number of people came in, right, and the right price was sent in. So me being now CIP, right, I get a regular report from you, Andre, as to how much money has come into the account. I can verify that amount. So when we say we cannot, we can. So we know that X number of files came in with X number of people, and these are the conditions. We know what the regulated price is, what is in the statute, what has been published as being the price, and I can verify that you've sent the right amount of money. So there's no way for the entity to defraud the state in that regard.
So you're saying that, you're suggesting that if, because these are the allegations that were made as well, that if Galaxy would have sold a share for less than the $200,000, and let's say I applied and I paid $100,000, which is $100,000 less, then there is a way for you as CIP to track and to verify whether I paid the right amount, because the money I pay will go to the escrow account, and the escrow agent will send back that report to you every month to say, these are the files that I received, this is the money I received, and you just have to reconcile. Any good accountant can reconcile. So if there is any lowering or underselling of the passport, then it's very easy for CIP to track. And that's why you've been calling for an independent investigation to verify that.
Well, I want to say that we're getting ahead of me. So that is a pretty standard process. Okay, the only act of fraud that can take place is if the money was deposited into the escrow agent and the government is not exercising the appropriate due diligence on how much money Galaxy is taking out. It means that Galaxy could potentially pay and then take it back out. Okay? But that ought not to happen. But in the real estate program, and you said it, you can go online. It tells you that Galaxy is an approved real estate agent and project. It tells you what the prices are. So I can go and verify everything I have. All of these things are what we call regulations. So you have an act that says that there's going to be a real estate program, and then there are the regulations
give the
which tells you
guidelines
how the whole thing is going to work and how you can follow the money. Okay? What has happened now is that they've created now a fourth program.
And that's where I asked you the question. What is this infrastructure program?
So, Lucia, I want us to now just all the other things. There may be some little nuances, but for the most part, by a proper audit, you can, and by proper balances, checks and balances, you can know the source. The money came into the state, you know how much money it came. It went into the economic fund, you know what it is. The money that comes from the bonds goes into the consolidated account. There's full accountability for the money as to how it went and where it was spent.
For the real estate, it goes to the escrow account, so you know.
Right. The next one is the infrastructure.
I hear a big butt from you, sir.
Right, infrastructure.
Okay.
All we know is that in December, the government amended the CIP Act to include infrastructure under a component called enterprise.
Boy,
So
you're
one
confusing me there
right.
now.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did they make that amendment?
So one of the paths...
Parliament? Did you all debate that in Parliament? I can't recall. How did they make that amendment?
Just through an SI.
Okay, so an SI, and then where is it published?
In the Gazette.
And who reads the Gazette? And do you read the
Well,
Gazette?
we all... Can I say this to you?
Okay.
Ignorance of the law. Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Agreed, but...
Sorry, what is an SI?
A statutory instrument.
Can you explain what that means?
Sure. So a statutory instrument is when I give incentives based on a law, right? I'm required to publish it. So it's published in the form of what's called a statutory instrument, right? A legal instrument that goes into the Gazette and is now part of our law, okay? So if I say I can give incentives for a rent-a-car business, okay? I don't have to go each time and go to the parliament and debate that. The law already gives me the authority, the state the authority to give the incentives. All I'm doing is making public who I'm giving the incentives to. So I'm saying under the act of the Tourism Incentives Act, section blah, 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 the authority is given to give the rent-a-car business incentives, and based on the application, and these are the incentives we've given you. So it means that now the bank and all the other legal institutions know that the person got those incentives. It's a legal document. It's what formalizes the approval from the state, but does not require a debate in Parliament. It's just put to Parliament, okay? And it forms. So when you see us reading in the beginning of the House session, yes, more often than not, what we're reading is the SIs. So the SIs that happen in each one of those ministries, or anything that legally has happened that has to be now published. So there's no debate on these issues, right? We just lay those things before the House.
And this is normal procedure.
No, this is
normal
normal
procedure.
Normal.
Nothing abnormal to the whole thing. They made an amendment now in creating what's called infrastructure under the enterprise. But all they put was infrastructure, $100,000.
And that's it?
That's it. So we don't know who are the players in the infrastructure. So for instance, in real estate, right, we know that there has to be a developer.
And they would normally publish
Okay?
the name of
And the developer has to go through a certain process to be designated as a developer. They have to get planning approval. They have to get banking approval. They have to submit the project to the board, to the CIP board. The CIP board has to review it to make sure. You remember?
Now that's very important.
So remember, it doesn't just
very
go up. It
important
doesn't
what you
just go up on the
say.
website by itself, right? The CIP board has
Has
to
to vet it and approve
and
it.
to make sure that it's viable. That this isn't just some pie in the sky.
So I can't wake up in the morning and say, I'm applying to be a developer under the CIP and I'm going to build, 3 little cottages. I have to put a proper plan in place. I have to get my planning approval, DC approval, and then submit to the board of the CIP who would look at it and then say, yes, Nancy, we approve your real estate project and you're now an approved developer, and then they can now publish it and then I can now start selling.
And people have to verify it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So if you say that you're using AMR as your management company, they have to go and call AMR.
All right.
And
but
find
the
out.
infrastructure.
That is for the real estate, for a
Right.
hotel. But in the infrastructure, there's no details.
But shouldn't that be part of the same thing, sir? Shouldn't it be, okay, under the infrastructure?
My job here is not to do that. My job here is just to ask a very important question. I'm
asking you and you're asking
I'm
me.
asking every day why, right? So the point is that how does a person who is going to be doing infrastructure, how is that person approved? So there's nothing on the website, to your point, that says any of this. It was not until 2 days ago, right, in a press statement by Galaxy, that Galaxy said that they are a developer
under the infrastructure program.
infrastructure program. Okay.
And so the government could, former Prime Minister, don't you think that as a former Prime Minister, if you were Prime Minister, something so critical, because the infrastructure, well, I know the meaning of infrastructure has changed now, but we knew infrastructure to be roads, bridges, and certain, schools, etc. But now infrastructure is everything else. But don't you think, as a former Prime Minister, that it would have been incumbent on you, such an important development in our country, to make an announcement and let everybody know this program? And that's because we want to build roads. Everybody complaining about the roads, so we want to fix our bridges and things. That's where the money coming from. Shouldn't it be important for you to say that as a Prime Minister?
Absolutely. And who the players are, because
Yeah.
it's once I know who the players are, I know I can determine the credibility. But the question of why all of this is what comes to my mind. Philip here, in his typical smoke and mirrors, wants to lay the blame at the United Workers' Party and to say that we are against development of this country,
Okay.
that we're against housing, that we're against roads and infrastructural development. That's not true. In fact, very proud of the fact that I think that our tenure as a government, we were exemplary in terms of the amount of housing developments that we started, both in putting roads, water, electricity, physical housing developments, Shock and Tavern, just to name two, what we were doing in Lafag, and what we were doing in my own constituency, right? All around the country, Forest Stair, I can go through the length
all
and breadth
over.
of the, okay? What we were doing for infrastructure, for roads.
The
We
roads,
spent,
yeah.
I want to tell you the number, Andre, $500 million was being spent on road development in my 5-year tenure. And I kept on saying to the people of St. Lucia, as good as that was, no other government had spent that kind of money on road infrastructure in a 5-year term. $500 million.
You felt it was too little or too much?
It was not sufficient.
It was not sufficient. And that's why I was saying to you, $500 million only represented 1/3 of the roads in St. Lucia. But
Can you
that's
imagine?
to tell you the state of the roads when we came in. Because for the previous 20 years, there has been not enough money being spent in infrastructure on road redevelopment. They were not even spending the $10 million a year that was required just for maintenance.
To do the patchwork.
You see, if you're not maintaining the roads, Andre, then it means you have to go in and spend more money on fixing up the roads. What's maintenance? Maintenance is the drains. Maintenance is keeping the verges clean So we know we had the STEP program that was just being done maybe 3 times a year, but that's insufficient. We changed the STEP program to where we had people permanently employed to do 1 mile of road. Okay? And what we normally did is that you would get a 6-month contract and another person would get a 6-month contract. But it was the same person. And the fact is that they were now getting a consistent contract, which they could depend on that income. Whereas with STEP, you didn't know if you were going to be even in the next step. But everybody was losing in my mind with STEP. The government was losing because we were not doing enough work on a regular basis to maintain the roads. You need to do this thing on a monthly basis. It's not something you can just go do 2-3 times a year. All right? And when you have to wait for all the silt to gather up and desilt once a year, it's nonsense. We now see that we're getting sporadic rainfalls, heavy rainfalls throughout the year, and there's no longer just a rainy season anymore. We have these freak storms, and if you're not prepared, then it's going to create significant amount of damage. But we spent $500 million. Okay? The government has the economic fund. As I said, Andre, $100,000. CIP confirms that the $100,000 is received. CIP then transfers the money into the economic fund. The economic fund has a board of directors. And so the application by the Ministry of Infrastructure or any of the ministries, Ministry of Housing, to do a project comes in, it's properly vetted, and then the monies are then transferred using the government's procurement guidelines, meaning that the agencies cannot just pick who they want to be as a contractor. They have to go through the process of having a bid, and there are multiple sets of eyes that represent the state that are overseeing the money.
But you also ensure that there's some level of equity that persons can participate in the process.
Well, it's not equity, it's accountability and transparency. Right? So that means that the persons who are going to qualify to put a bid in have to be qualified. So it's not.
Well, let me say a level of fairness. So you
Correct.
don't just wake
Yes.
up in the morning and say, I'll give Nancy the contract.
Right.
You ensure that it is out there so that other persons get an opportunity to bid as well.
Let's be fair to your listeners. Why? What's the contrast? The contrast is if the $100,000 goes into, now we know, Galaxy. Galaxy also said something very shocking in their press statement, that they're collecting the fees.
Yep.
Right?
That's another story.
So all the administrative fees that normally is collected by CIP, the press
Galaxy
statement
is
says that
collecting.
Galaxy is the one collecting it. So the $100,000 now goes to Galaxy. We don't know if it's an escrow account.
But why? Isn't that illegal, sir?
Well,
Anyway, that's for another show.
We don't know if it's going into an escrow account. Okay? We don't know what contract that Galaxy has with the government. We don't know what projects. So let's go by an example. So Nancy was hitting on a very important point. We brought Galaxy in. Ernest Hilaire said that he had concerns about Galaxy. Right? He said they didn't finish the hotel in St. Kitts. Why are we bringing these people into St. Lucia? All right? You would have thought that when he got in, that he would have reviewed what was in place and made sure that they finished the hotel. But what did he do? They've given Galaxy now another contract. And history is now repeating itself. The same thing happened in St. Kitts. And that is what this case that MSR is bringing up is more to do with the prison than it is to do with anything else. So the government of St. Kitts gave Galaxy, like they're giving Galaxy here infrastructure, they gave them a project called the Prison of St. Kitts. And the prison cost was $50 million US.
Okay, 50.
Right? They were allowed to sell 5,500 shares. And each share was $200,000.
Oh my.
So you're
That's
talking
about $1.4 billion.
Correct. So
for $50 million?
So why on earth, and that's what MSR is saying, why would you have approved 5,500 shares at over $1 billion to build
a $50 million prison? That makes
and
no sense.
Is it that they were basically knowing that Galaxy was going to discount? They were not going to sell it for the $200,000. But the question is, how much did they sell it for? How much money was raised? We don't know. The government of St. Kitts is now conducting a full audit on that project.
Yep.
But it's definitely in excess of $50 million. And what do we know? The project has not been completed. No prison.
Nothing.
So that's why I'm asking the question. Is there an accepted ratio that the government has agreed with Galaxy? Meaning, for every $10 they collect, they can spend $1. Is it every $5 they collect, they can spend $1? Is it every $2 they collect? And so what do I mean by that? So if in fact they're supposed to spend $100 million on an infrastructure program, are they going to collect $200 million? Are they going to collect $300 million? Are they going to collect $400 million? Are they going to collect $500 million?
We don't know.
We don't know.
But do we know what the projects are?
We don't know
as
what
well?
any of the projects are. We don't know how the agent was selected. We don't know what the projects were in terms of how much the project they're supposed to spend. We don't know how much you're allowing them to collect. So this is what MSR is complaining about. That MSR came to St. Kitts, was going to agree to do movies in St. Kitts. That's what he's, a film producer. So he produced 2 movies, and the expectation was that he was going to sell the CIP program to pay for those movies. So what he's now found himself doing is having to pay for the movies himself because he could not compete with Galaxy because Galaxy was selling these shares for the prison less than the agreed price. And he's saying clearly there is collusion. And he's gone out and found information from different agents to say, yes, there was collusion. And in the case of St. Lucia, because Galaxy's here, and there are 2 common things. It's Galaxy and Les Can, who is the CEO of Galaxy, used to be the CEO of the CIP program in St. Kitts. When the new government came in, he left and he joined Galaxy. He also has evidence to show that the CEO here, Mr. Emmanuel, who is not only the godfather, but he's also the campaign manager for Philip Pierre.
Oh, okay. So I was on the right track then.
Okay?
Okay.
That there is an audio tape of him saying that Ernest Hilaire is in charge of the program. He's running it. Everybody does.
And he's allowing Galaxy
there's
to do
secret
what
deals
they want.
taking place out there, and he's letting Galaxy do it. I don't know if that's true. I can only tell you what the allegations are. So what the opposition has asked for. Let's not make it out that we want any punitive damage being done to anybody unfairly. All we've said is, given the evidence that has taken place, and clearly the government has breached the law, because how they have introduced the infrastructure program is illegal. Cannot do what they have done. There's no regulations to what they've done. There's no structure. The program has no substance to it.
Nothing.
There's no clarity. We're supposed to be able to answer those questions. We cannot answer those questions. And as Nancy said, we're getting information from a third-handed person, not from the government directly. So what we've asked for, we believe that Claude Emmanuel should be put on the leave. We said he should be fired. We just believe that he should be set aside.
You've been very generous, Mr. Police
I am being very generous.
Because I am asking for his resignation immediately.
Well, look,
because
a man is
but
innocent until he's proven guilty. But the point is that I want St. Lucians to appreciate what is taking place. And when we remain silent and when we choose, boy, this is too complicated, I don't want to get involved, this is our business. The money that is being used is the money of the people. The money is being generated by selling the sovereignty of the state, the patrimony of the state, by selling our citizenship. That's the people's money. And government has a responsibility to be transparent and accountable to us. That's what the Constitution says. And so when we allow civil servants like Claude Emmanuel to have conflicted priorities, conflicted, what's the word I want to use, loyalties. His loyalty can only be to one set of people, the people of St. Lucia. The board of directors on CIP, their loyalty is not to the government. Their loyalty is to the people. And at the end of the day, they are the ones who are going to be legally accountable. Because if in fact that there's an audit and anything is identified as being untoward, it is not the minister. The minister signs, the only thing the minister signs is a certificate based on the recommendation of the board. So if the board is allowing these things to take place, they are the ones who are going to be legally liable. When we had the whole situation with NCA, the NCA board, I'm putting you all on notice. There's nothing in your regulations. You were on that board, the National NLA board, okay? That speaks to running projects. So you're telling me that NLA board is sitting there by themselves because there's no professional staff in there to evaluate the construction projects? And you're just issuing out contracts? Well, guess what?
$18 million.
Even if you don't have it, it's your responsibility to have put it in place.
Agreed.
And when you don't do that, if in fact that there's any claims or anything that's untoward, you're the ones, the board directors are the ones who are going to be held liable. Don't come here and talk about political vindictiveness when you accept those positions. So that Nancy will notice, when I came into government, I'm proud of the fact that the first order of business was to do governance training, governance director, because that has now become a big thing. When you are on a board, there are things that you are responsible for.
And you have to know that.
And what did we do? We made sure that people did the course entree, but they passed it. When they passed the course, I know on the date that they took that exam, they had sufficient information to have passed the course, and therefore, they are accountable. They know the difference between right and wrong. So what is happening with this CIP situation is the minister needs to be set aside, the CO needs to be set aside, and an independent audit needs to come in specifically on the infrastructure program. How many units have been sold? Where is the money? What's the money supposed to be going for?
Are you suggesting, Honorable Leader of the Opposition, that as we speak, because I did not even look at it from that perspective as well, we've been talking about the infrastructure program, but now that Galaxy has come out and said that they are the agent, are we thinking that the infrastructure program has started selling? And is there a possibility that Galaxy have started selling and they've started collecting money on this infrastructure program?
So solutions, I want all of us to listen very carefully. The information coming to us is that Galaxy has sold 11,000 files.
Under the infrastructure program?
Under the infrastructure program.
Wow. And remember, remember
a file
can be more than one person.
So let's say on average it's 3. On average. So that means 33,000 passports have been sold under what I deem to be an illegal program. Because we don't know under what cause, how did they sell it?
And where is the money?
Where is it that any document says that Galaxy was appointed as the developer?
And what are they building? Are they building a road? Are they building a house? Are they building a school? Are they fixing a hospital? What exactly are they doing with the money? What exactly is the infrastructure program? So, St. Lucia, I hope you're understanding from our point of view, and the leader of the opposition has stated very clearly that the Opposition United Workers' Party were not opposed to the development of St. Lucia. I don't know that we will be opposed to any development that will be taking place in this country
for the benefit
of St. Lucia.
But it's even worse than that. No, the opposition is saying that you have a donation program in which you're already collecting $100,000. Why aren't you doing the infrastructural programs
under that in which there's transparency and accountability and regulations? So you're doing another program that no transparency.
Right. So you see.
But there's a pattern there.
Okay. Yes.
There's a pattern.
And there's a pattern. And so let's understand why. I believe by putting the money into Galaxy's hands, you're now avoiding having to follow solution law. So they become the owners of the money. Okay? They can choose whomever, because I've not even asked the question, how do they select the contractors?
Oh boy. Okay?
Who is doing the evaluation as to what the work is done? So if you have a road and somebody's telling me that's $1 million road, I know the Ministry of Infrastructure has a chief engineer, etc., and that they have rules that they can evaluate what that road is worth.
Right.
Okay? Who is doing that? Because now this is outside of government. And you now talked about a pattern of behavior. So let's look at the pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
The government of St. Lucia through SLASPA was obtaining $6.50 of a head tax. That money over the years has been sufficient for Invest St. Lucia to build Point Seraphin, for SLASPA to have built the docks and extend it, to build, what's the name of the company where all the duty free is on the other side, on the North
La
Force?
Paz Carnage.
La Paz Carnage. Okay? All those things were built
By SLASPA.
based on
The 650.
the 650.
Was it always 650 or recently?
No, I remember. I mean, I'm aging
I'm
myself.
asking you there because
when I was a director of tourism in 1991 is when
Right.
the government built Point Seraphin,
right.
right? And we got nothing. And when the government increased the tax to $1 in 1991, Carnival Cruise Lines pulled out
From $1 for $1.
for $1.
Okay.
Now this has been a fight. Oh, but everybody, that's been well documented.
Right.
But we had reached a point that I knew the cruise lines had agreed already in advance to increase it to $11 or $12.
Right.
Okay? So there was no hard negotiation. So the government now has entered into an arrangement that they did not put out to bid. So GPH,
We just handpicked GPH.
we're going to give you, well, GPH was in discussions with us,
But they still
and they've been
handpicked.
around. So I don't
Right.
want to say that they're an illegal or
They're not strangers.
They're no strangers.
Okay.
Okay. It's just the deal. So I'm asking the question: if SLASPA under the 650 was doing all those things, and we knew that the tax could go to $12,
Can you imagine?
right? And you were only going to be spending, if the decision was, and that's a big thing I want solutions to appreciate, the difference between United Workers' Party and Labour Party. United Workers' Party did not believe in expanding any more capacity in castries. What we believed was improving the quality of castries, and that's why the hotel was going up. And what we said is we wanted to take the containers in Prince Alfred Basin and move it to cul-de-sac and put a convention facility, a cultural facility, okay, another hotel, and make castries a capital for meetings and incentives. Why? Because you have George Charles Airport. So imagine you can arrive at George Charles Airport, you can be in your conference hotel and have a conference in Castries. You're there in 2-3 minutes. Fix up Ganter's Bay, right? Put more nightlife in Castries, because imagine if you had 400 hotel rooms in the vicinity of Castries. The restaurants that would open up, so it would be looking like Rodney Bay at nighttime. Castries dies, a ghost town, right? So even Constitution Park was to break down the Princery, break down the Parliament, break down the courthouses, which they all have agreed now.
Finally.
They've all now sat in Parliament and said, that's a good idea. And we said, break it down and now make it a green space. So when you're driving down, coming into town, you're passing the Castries Market. The first building you're going to see is the cathedral. How beautiful would that be? The CDCs were going to be moved to Mount Pleasant. That's where all the new housing was going to be done. And the CDC building area was going to become government buildings. Why? To make Castries attractive. And then we said is that we would expand the cruise industry in the south. Why? Because by putting the port in the south, we could now compete with home porting. It's a business we're not in. And there's big money in home porting because we're getting the airport tax. Right? People are staying for a couple of nights before or after their stay. All right? Plus, the one thing that is going to make St. Lucia competitive in the cruise industry is attractions. We cannot compete with the shopping on board. I don't know when's the last time you went on a cruise ship, Andre. Okay? It is the best shopping mall you've ever seen in your entire life.
Oh, really?
Okay? Now, if I'm a customer and I'm going to buy a Rolex watch or whatever, I'm going to buy it from that duty free because I know that if anything goes wrong, I can call Carnival, I can call Royal Caribbean and complain. When I buy it from a company here, I don't know what I'm getting. So duty free shopping has been declining, but attractions are on the way up. There's more opportunity to expand attractions in the south than there is in the north. Just think of it. Think of the two Mikos down to Denry, and think of Labrie and Choiseul, and all of a sudden that whole south, what you can do. And St. Lucia would become a what we call a marquee destination. A marquee destination means they cannot avoid not coming here. But I go away.
But
So GPH,
politically, that we have to take some calls, so you can continue. But we'll open up the lines, and you can give them.
So
the numbers
so
to take some
GPH
calls as well.
is now the third party. They're collecting the $12. They're not accountable to the state. When the money goes into their pocket,
It's their money.
it's their money. And the question is, why? So why would you increase the tax to $12? GPH gets 11, and the state gets 1. To me, the state should have kept the $650.
Well, the Prime Minister has not clarified that. Remember, he said to the reporter that
He
he will
will.
get that information. But I've dared him and challenged him to say, come out.
I want to say two things again on the halls of injustice. One, the way that the money is divided is a little bit different than what you said. The amounts are correct. So it's $143 million for the construction, right? The $21 million is for what we call FF&E. It's for the furniture and the finishings, and also for the financing during the construction of the 2 years.
So what's the extra money for then?
Interest on the loan.
So the interest on the loan is the $127 million?
And but let me explain
Oh
something
my
even more.
God.
That this is the type of project that would normally be done with NIC.
Yes.
So the profit that NIC would have made is
So that
the
$127 million could have gone to NIC,
Bingo.
to our pensioners. And, you know.
That is the most egregious part.
Let's get this straight, St. Lucia, because I did the breakdown, but I thought that the furniture was what was so expensive. You're saying to me that it is actually the interest on the loan, the borrowing cost, the financing cost. You're telling me that $127 million is going to Trinidad and not to NIC in St. Lucia?
Correct.
And we're going to sit there, St. Lucians, and take that? Andre, please give our callers the numbers so we can open the lines, both the WhatsApp and the landline. And we have our political leader here.
So
your
on that
questions?
project, it's three things. One, that the money now has gone into this company that you've spoken about,
Themis.
that they get to choose the contractor, they get to choose all the suppliers,
And
which are going to be Trinidad.
But that's what Emil
Okay.
said. I didn't say that. He said that as
Okay.
well.
You then have a situation where the money should have been going to NIC. So remember, they cursed off Cabot for borrowing money,
For borrowing money and paying NIC interest.
which is what to the benefit of the pensioners.
Yep.
Now they're denying NIC what they should have been theirs. Okay? You brought up a very interesting point. Every day I go there. When you look on the online messages, tell us about the dollar for the land, or for the lease.
DSH.
Andre, am I right? The dollar.
Yeah.
Okay? So the same dollar is the same dollar that's being used to pay for an acre of land in town that is worth $1,000 a square foot. Okay? Now, this is where we allow politicians to play with our
Our
minds.
lines are open.
Whenever you're ready. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're ready.
The reason for the dollar is to remind everybody that the land is owned by the state. And the state is simply leasing the land to allow them to use it with the bank. Now I'm going to ask him $1 million question. The Prime Minister yesterday said that they're leasing the land to GPH. And I see it. All of a sudden my mind starts going. Your mind should be going. In order to get the loan with Bank of St. Lucia, what is the collateral?
We've asked that question a million
if
times.
the collateral is
Nobody
if
chooses
the
to
collateral
answer.
is not going to be the government guarantee, right? Then the collateral has to be that they have to do what's called an infitutic lease for the 30 years, right? And lease the land
And
to
to
them.
GPH.
And I guarantee the people of St. Lucia it's going to be
$1.
$1.
Let's open the lines, Andre. We have a call?
you certainly
can
do.
put it, yes. Good morning, caller. My apologies, but the political leader has a lot of information we needed to share. So thank you for calling with the opposition.
Good morning, Nancy. Good morning, Andre.
Hello.
Good morning, caller. And we only have 10 minutes, so if you have a question, can you just make it very
Thank
quick?
you, Nancy.
And we'll let
Thank
leader of the opposition answer.
And good morning.
Good morning.
To the only leader that God has brought to us since the passing of Sir John Compton. Good morning to you, Mr. Shasney.
Thank you very much.
Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
I'm not going to be long. I've just been listening to you there. When you spoke about the financing of these companies and the deals that Philippe have been going through with these people, now we can understand why it is so hard for the poor man to survive in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Because not $1 out of all what I am hearing there have been circulated on the ground in St. Lucia.
You're correct, Cora. Very correct. All the money is going out.
$1. All those monies are leaving St. Lucia. And we don't expect poverty to hit us. We do not expect poverty to hit us. I am calling on the people of St. Lucia to stand up with all the evidence that my God has given to them. Stand up, find strength to go out there and demand that Philip J. Pierre and his cabinet of corrupt organization, they call themselves the government of St. Lucia, they need to go. They need to go, because if they stay there, in the next 2 years, poverty will hit us like we have never seen it before. Have a good day.
Thank you, caller. Thank you, caller. And I think it's interesting. I know that St. Lucians are thinking,
You have another
the
caller?
leader. Yeah. Good morning. Thank you for calling Meet the Opposition.
Good morning.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Andrew Paul.
Morning, sir.
Nancy Charles.
Morning.
Morning, Mr. Alan Chasson. My problem is...
Hold on, caller, because there's a little feedback. I think you're still listening to the radio, or if you're on Facebook and we're hearing it, if you can turn down the volume. Okay, go ahead.
My problem is with my party. I'm living in Central Castries. And honestly, I do not want to hear about Labour Party. I want to see and hear my party on the ground. I want to honestly know who is going up for Central Castries. We need to get rid of Coxazel, and I'm very disappointed in my party right now. Then I really want to hear about Labour. I want to focus on Flabo, and I want to focus on my party. And I want to know who is going up for Central Castries. That's what I'm fed up about.
Can I ask you a question?
Thank you, caller. Let the leader of the opposition answer.
Can I ask you a question, sir?
Yeah, man.
Are you a member of the United Workers' Party constituency?
The branch. Are you a member of the branch?
I think he hung up.
So this is something that I'm hearing, and I want to take it for face value as being a legitimate concern. If in fact that's how anybody feels, join the branch, become a member of the United Workers' Party, and then you will be able to answer those questions, because the constituency branch is the one that's responsible for identifying potential candidates and sending them off to me. I know the constituency branch is working on that, but if you want more information and you really feel the pain and you know that change is needed now, become a member of the party. We're not going to win this war by one person, okay? And this party is never built. I know that Sir John really is a bigger than life story, but there were a lot of people that were behind Sir John to make it successful. Mr. Girodi, Mr. Busquet, Mr. Mason. I can go down a list of people and those persons who know that they were in the constituency branches. I want to encourage you, sir, that this information that we're giving to people is not to say we got you, okay? Because that's not going to solve any problems. What this information is saying is that this government is not capable of running this country. Okay, I don't have any personal issues with Philip here. Okay, I think that he's a solution, and I take it for that. But what I'm challenging him is that he cannot keep coming to the podium and saying he can't remember. So if he
don't know.
So both of those things at this point, by being prime minister, disqualifies you. And if you do know, and you're allowing these things to happen, then you should also be disqualified. So I think that all of us now have the comparisons between United Workers' Party and Labour Party. There were allegations made of corruption during my tenure, that there were the same construction companies that were getting the work all the time. But yet, those construction companies were passing on the work to everybody in St. Lucia. Leading up to the elections, people, every backhoe, every truck was being used. Today, one contractor is getting it, and he is what we call vertically integrated. I remember seeing it with Renault. I said, but Renault, even a wheelbarrow. He said, but I make wheelbarrows. Right? The money is not being shared. We just found out that he got another contract for $63 million that the St. Jude's Hospital is going to cost $265 million. And we're seeing that it's not even about a building, because if you have a building, even though it's a stadium, and you're allowing goats and cows and dogs to go through it, it tells you that you're incompetent. And that is the problem with this government. There seems to be an attempt here to just deflect, right? There's chaos inside of that camp. We're all feeling it. The money is not being circulated. I mean, as I said to you, Nancy, when I went through the budget to prepare for a rebuttal, I was on the first page. I didn't get past the first page. The first page. And the first page told you the story of what is happening. That the economy grew by 2.2%, but the debt grew by 8.8%. And so, Andrea, I gave the example with Timothy. His mother was a vendor. So the numbers are suggesting that a vendor who goes to SNS to buy an item for $4 to sell down at the market and is selling it for $1. How long is she going to stay in business?
Not long.
Okay? That's the story of the government. Now, what are we seeing? In 2020, we borrowed $344 million. COVID year.
1 year.
The following year, $360 million. Okay? And then now the third year, $388 million. Now, we need to have a comparison. 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, we were borrowing on average $100 million
a year.
So you're borrowing almost 3.5 times each year. And the economy in 2020 grew by 12%. Great. Justify. The economy grew by 20% the following year. Okay. As long as you're going to continue to see the economy grow faster than the debt, you're on a good trajectory. This year, your borrowings went up by 8.8%. The economy only grew by 2.2%. And the projection for next year is even lower than that. And yet you're proposing to borrow even more money. And to make matters worse is that the surplus revenue that the government is boasting about has come from the backs of the people of this country. It's by maintaining the gas price at $16.50, while the price of the CIF price of fuel came down, by keeping the cooking gas at $33 when the price has dropped. So they're making money on people's pain. We've had 3 years where the households, individuals, money value has depreciated because of inflation. So they have less money. So if there's less money in circulation with the people, now the caller before hit the nail on the head. The money that's being generated, which is being paid for by the taxpayers of this country. So when the halls of justice are paying rent, the $16 a square foot, the money is coming from tax revenue.
But it has not only tax revenue, but something will have to be reduced in order to pay for that $16 a square foot.
Or they're going to continue borrowing money. Because guess what? The cost of government costs are going to go up, right? So you said it was $19 million a year?
Yep.
So it means that the rent payment is going to go up by $19 million. Now remember, Hilaire said what?
You have a call?
No, we have to wrap up.
Oh, okay.
Hilaire said that, what's it called, Diamond was the most expensive rent in St. Lucia. Right? The rent is $4. So the rent for the halls of justice is $16. Is four
times.
4 times the amount. Okay? I mean, is that registering with us?
Well,
I mean, Nancy went as high as $10. I don't know that we have rent in the system at $10.
That's what I'm saying.
The highest rent I've heard is $7.50, and that includes a company that built out all the furniture and everything else for us. Okay, that is our money. So I want to say this to St. Lucians because I know we're wrapping up.
It's 11 o'clock, so we have to close. So
we're seeing a pattern of behavior here, where this government is deliberately identifying third parties, the halls of justice, GPH, CIP, NLA, and National Lotteries money, okay, and St. Jude's, where taxpayers' monies are now being put in the hands of third parties. Each one of them, we have to ask the question, why? Why would you put the money into Galaxy when you could have put the money
into the consolidated
into the economic fund? Okay, why would you have allowed NH to do the halls of justice when NIC could have done it and earned the money from the interest payments? Why would you have had the NLA do it when there are other government entities that should be responsible for? And that's a disaster up there, right? There's a big bet going on as to whether, in fact, that the stadium is actually going to be ready for next Saturday. Now, the irony here, you've heard the name Don Lockerbie and the criticism they gave Don. Don is only part of a company. His company built the stadium in New York on Long Island. Did you know that?
No.
For cricket? They built it in 106 days, a 35,000 square foot facility. Okay? So you want to ask the question, why did the money go into the NLE? Right? GPH, why would the government not continue to believe in SLASPA? SLASPA has performed. Why would you take the money away from SLASPA? And when we ask that question, why? The next question, if we cannot answer why, if there's no logical reason, then we must ask ourselves another question. Who is benefiting? Because there's an old saying, follow the money. The money will always tell you what the truth is at the end of the day.
Well, St. Lucia, that is how we end our program today. Why, and follow the money. We need to follow the money. And I make no bones about it that I think something untoward is going on with all these projects and these programs that we're talking about. So before I go, I also need to remind you, or else my Canadian people, they're going to slaughter me. The Flabo Canadian Caucus, we're having our fundraising gala 2024.
The 15th?
It's on the 15th. Let me look at this
15th of
flyer
June
they've sent
in
me.
Toronto.
It's on the 15th of June. And
we
the
also
information is that you can purchase your ticket online at Flabo Canada Caucus Gala 2024 .myshopify.com, or you can go to Facebook page and text 461-416-508-2912. There will be entertainment from Morgie, Pablo from St. Lucia, and DJ Big Six, and our guest speaker would be Guy Joseph, Thorold Prudent, and the political leader, Honorable Alan Chasney. So go out and support those of you in the diaspora.
We also have a town hall meeting in Grand Riviere on Sunday.
Yes, I'm going to make those announcements as well. We have quite a few activities happening on the weekend. When we leave here this evening, we're going to be on the Jugbois show, the Creole audience. We've not reached out to our Creole audience, so I'm asking you to listen to us this evening on Jugbois. We also have the round table that is going to be at this evening as well. And on the weekend, we have our town hall meeting at the Grand Riviere Secondary School at 4 p.m. So you can come up to Grand Riviere. All roads leads to Grand Riviere on Sunday, and you can also view it online on GVD TV. And during the week, we're starting our community meetings, Andre. So the people who have been calling and saying they need to now consult with us and for our caller from Casper Central to know what's going on, etc. We've started our community consultation. So when you hear your name called out, whichever community you're from, come out, come talk to us, come share with us what your plans and your visions are for your community
Join
and
United
your
Workers
constituency.
Party.
Thank you
involved.
very much. And this has been another edition of Meet the Opposition. Thank you very much, Leader of the Opposition, for being here. I know we have a long schedule today, but St. Lucia, be safe, and please remember that the United Workers' Party is always looking out for the interests of St. Lucia. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Nancy. and Opposition Leader Alan Shastney. Well, listen again next week, Thursday, same time, 9 o'clock, from 9 until 11, for another Meet the Opposition, hosted by Nancy Charles. That ends my stint here on Rev Up St. Lucia for today. Do join me again tomorrow morning, same time, from 5 o'clock until 11. Tony Paul up next. Let's say so long to our friends on Facebook.